Dr. Brian Stiller is no stranger to most Canadians. In fact, he's well known in many parts of the world. For many years here in Canada, he was the executive director and the president of the Evangelical Fellowship of Canada, and as such provided a major voice for evangelical Christians before the television cameras and also on Parliament Hill. He left that to become president of Ontario Bible College at a time when OBC, as it was known then, was really facing some stiff challenges. Today, 14 years later, he is the president of Tyndale College and Seminary, University College and Seminary, I should add, with a huge future, but he himself is stepping down, and I thought it would be very appropriate to have Brian come by our way and just kind of reflect on the last 14 years. Welcome, Brian.
Jim, nice to be with you.
Well, it's always a pleasure having you here. You're sort of the one of the familiar faces on 100 Huntley Street. For many years, you had your own segment on this program. But Brian, you're about to step down. In fact, you have stepped down. Your tenure pretty much is over. It's been a remarkable ride. How are you feeling?
Well, it's as I was telling Lily, it's like riding a bicycle, and I tend to ride a bicycle at a fair clip. And the bicycle stops, and yet you're still trying to stay upright. You feel a little wobbly at times. The fact is that transition has its own burden and its own you can't predict what's going to happen or how you're going to feel in transition. Right. And I've been talking to a friend of mine who just retired from a seminary in the U.S., and we said we need to write a book to help people face transition. Now, I'm in my later 60s, so I'm transitioning in multiple ways, so I've got a couple of layers on transition. But very excited about the next 15 years of my life. I have a sense of plans to 82, as the Lord allows, a full active life. I'll stay on as chancellor. We've got $20 million yet to raise in our capital campaign. I've got 3 books I'm working on, preach every weekend, love to interact with people. I've got a major national idea I'm just working on, but Lily and I are taking a few months off, and we'll do some reflecting and journaling and praying and reading and see how the Spirit leads.
Now, the fact you mentioned, you just kind of throw it away, another $20 million to raise. For many people, that would be more than a life challenge. But you've already raised $40 million. And the fact is, this money is raised for this incredible campus, right next to the old OBC campus, over 50 acres that you bought from the Catholic Sisters.
Yes.
It's an absolutely gorgeous facility right there on Bayview in Toronto. It's outstanding. You've done something remarkable. To your knowledge, is there, and I'm not asking you to brag on yourself, but I'm impressed, and I know the rest of those in the know are impressed. Has anyone else ever raised $40 million, let alone $60 million for the purchase of a campus for a Christian college? I mean, this is unprecedented, is it not?
As we were moving towards this, and we realized that we needed about $60 million to buy the property and develop program and so forth, our consultants say nobody has ever, no religious, Catholic or Protestant community has ever tried to raise that much money in Canadian history, let alone do it. And so that was simply another question mark around, are we crazy? But as we looked at it, the possibilities of this marvelous property, to fit, we weren't buying property, we were really working to fulfill a vision. Yeah. And we believed that a outstanding Christian university and seminary in this city, in this part of the world, was essential to the mandate of the gospel in transforming lives and society. And so this was simply a vehicle to do that. So we said, well, we aren't going to buy a property, we want to do this incredible thing here in Canada, and this will help us. So as we looked at it, we said, it's a good deal, it's a great deal financially, but we got to trust God. So the thing that has been the most driving part of my life experience these last 14 years is to learn what it means to walk by faith.
Yeah. And when you took over OBC, you continued as president of EFC for what, a year and a half, 2 years?
A couple of years I did both.
You did 2 jobs at once. EFC in itself was more than a full-time job. Then you take on basically a bankrupt institution.
It had gone into receivership.
It had gone into receivership. You must have had a pretty clarion call from above to take that on. Why did you do it?
Well, the story simply was, I was called one night, June 26th, to help. And June 27th, I met with 3 senior people from the school.
What year was this?
1995.
Right.
So June 27th, and that week I'm co-hosting Huntley with Lorna Duick.
Right.
So Tuesday night I meet with some of the staff, some of the senior staff, and I ask them the story and so forth. At the very end of it, Lynn Smith, who was a senior in the administration, turned to me and said, "Brian, this morning, my husband and I read Joshua 3, where Joshua is now the new leader. People are saying, how do we get across the Jordan? Joshua goes to the Lord and says, what do I do? And the Lord says, when the feet of the priest touch the water, then I'll stop the water." So Lynn turned to me and said, "Brian, would you be a priest for us and step into the water?" Well, you know, as a Pentecostal boy from Saskatchewan, that stuff's hard to resist.
Oh, there you go. Absolutely.
And so that became the triggering thing. And then as we changed the board, a year later they asked me to come full-time, and the Lord just made it very clear to us. So we had to get it out of debt, change the name, become a university, do all these kind of things. And now we've built a platform on which we believe we'll have a school of 3,500 to 5,000 with a full university. Well, it won't be full, but it'll be an expanded university offering with a very strong seminary. People may have watched Hip to Be Holy on Global the other night. And the world is changing. The church as we know it is in transformation. And we believe that God is calling us to prepare leadership, to be out on the cutting edge of creating what the Spirit has had in mind for a long time.
Now, a critical